Okay, so far we've looked at the different states of matter, what we know about solids, liquids, and gases. So the next step is to determine what happens when you go from one state to another. So how does matter change from one state to another? This is lesson 8. So a couple key terms that we want to start off with right away. It's going to be water vapor, and water vapor is water that's in a gas state. If I wanted to think about what water is in a gas state, what would I know about the distance between the particles? Are they going to be close or far away? For in a gas state. The density is much lower, which means if I were to draw, say I'll represent it as boxes here, as a gas, if I were to just represent the particles in the gas state for water, they would be 1 or 2 particles and they'd be really far away. So that was awesome, Ty, coming up with that. The density is very low. Density of particles is low. All right? Now, you don't have to write that down here, but it's not a bad way of looking at it. When we look at a liquid, what would I notice about the density of particles with a liquid? Okay. They're moving around. Would there be more particles? Yeah. So we're going to have more particles. And what do I know about their movement? Because there's 3 types of movement. There's like crazy zipping along like laser beams, like just flying. There's like kind of like square dancing or whatever, like everything's kind of moving around, a little bit of order to it, not much. And then there's vibration. Everything's kind of tight and just vibrating like bees, but not moving, but vibrating back and forth. Okay? A solid would be what? Okay, so we'll write solid here. So for solid, I would have a lot more of them, and they're going to be nicely lined up. So the solid's got the most dense. So the density of particles is high. We'll say the highest. And we know that they are vibrating. Whereas in the gas stage, they're flying. They are just zipping around. And a liquid is in the middle. They're not vibrating. They're not flying. I like to say it's like they're square dancing. They're dancing. It's like kids dancing at a dance, right? A little bit of movement going around, not a lot of order to it. So we'll say that in a liquid, they're dancing, but they're not flying. Okay? And then this would, of course, have the medium density. So density of particles would be medium. I'll just write medium in there so it doesn't get too packed. And so another important term is to evaporate, and that's to change from a liquid to a gas. There's different types of change in state that we can go over in a sec, but that's an important one, evaporation. All right. So I'm going to read through this, highlight some things I think are important, maybe add a few notes. Right. Most kinds of matter can change from one state to another. Think about water. You know that liquid water can freeze and turn into solid water, ice. You have seen puddles of water seem to disappear. This happens when the liquid water turns into a gas, water vapor. The water evaporates. Clouds are made up of water vapor. When the water vapor in the clouds cools, the water vapor turns back into a liquid and it rains. Does anyone know what we call it when water goes back from a gas to a liquid? Condensation. All right, so I'm just going to highlight this. and the word cools, because that's probably important, and we're going to call that condensation. And I'm going to circle this because condensation can only happen when temperature drops. So when the temperature goes up, we have evaporation. When the temperature drops, we have condensation. If the temperature kept dropping even more, what would we have? And what would we call that when water goes from a liquid to a solid? Real easy, Caleb? Freezing. So if the temperature really drops, all right, sometimes you'll hear it called solidification, which is a fancy way of saying it forms a solid. Most matter can exist as a solid or a liquid or a gas. Heat causes matter to change from one state to another. Raising the temperature. A rise in temperature changes some solids to liquids. Raising the temperature still higher will turn the liquid into a gas. Lowering the temperature. If you lower a gas's temperature, it may change into a liquid. Lowering the temperature more may change the liquid into a solid. Different kinds of matter change their states at different temperatures. For example, ice changes to water at 0 degrees Celsius. I'm going to highlight that because that might be important. But you have to get iron much hotter than that to turn it into a liquid. We're talking hundreds of degrees. Actually, I think it's around 900 degrees Celsius. It's pretty hot. The fact that matter can change from one state to another is important to us. If we could not melt metals to liquid and turn them back into solids, we would not be able to make many products, like automobiles, frying pans, and importantly, back in the day, swords and spears and armor. So this right here is a pretty important little visual. How temperature affects the state of matter. So if our temperature goes up, we can go from solid to liquid to gas. And if our temperature goes down, we can go from gas to liquid to solid. All right? Remember, temperature measures the speed at which the particles are moving. So temperature all right, there we go.